that can stop me inside this octagon, and only politics can slow me. I don't have much left to say other than you have seen nothing yet.
It's time!
You're listening to the Cage Nation TV Prizefight Podcast. Coming to you from the Coastal Cameron Studios in Willington, North Carolina.
Are you ready?
Here's your host, the big fella, Albert Cameron.
Let's get it on!
Thank you for joining us for the Prizefight Podcast. I'm your host, the big fella, Mr. Albert Cameron, and I'm very glad you guys are joining us today. Hope y'all brought cab fare because today on the Prizefight Podcast, we are taking a trip down memory lane. I'm dedicating this episode to telling some of my favorite stories from Complete Devastation Mixed Martial Arts, and I'm doing so because I want to encourage the idea that fight promotions need to come back to Altoona, Pennsylvania as much as I possibly can. Recently, former CDMMA matchmaker Ryan Glenn said, "Hey guys, come to Altoona, we got things already in motion, we just need a promotion," and so I wanted to give my 2 cents and kind of share the love and encourage that a little bit. I love Altoona. I've had a great time being involved in the fight universe in Altoona, and I maintain the stance that I'm extremely lucky to be allowed to exist in a fighter's universe. When it comes down to mixed martial arts and combat sports in general, what matters is the guys who are lacing their gloves up and actually doing combat. Those are the guys who are making this all happen, and without them, there is no mixed martial arts, there's no boxing, there's no combat sports. So a big thank you to those guys. Much respect. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And of course, if you are a fight promoter and you are interested in Altoona, Pennsylvania, well, we're going to tell you all about why you should do that. I'm going to tell some of my favorite stories. Before we get into all that, we're going to listen to some messages, and don't go nowhere. It's the Prizefight Podcast. Cage Nation TV would like to take a second and formally thank all of the businesses that have taken the time to sponsor a mixed martial artist or a boxer as they have trained to attain greatness. In the world of business, it can be looked at as an advertising expense to get your name out there. But did you know that your sponsorship dollars is actually keeping the American dream alive? Your help and support is actually changing the lives of aspiring athletes. Working hard and reaching for the brass ring is truly the great American story. We encourage all of our listeners and followers to support businesses that sponsor your favorite fighters, and thank you to those businesses for your continued support and encouragement. Welcome back to the Prizefight Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, the big fella, Mr. Albert Cameron. Today, folks, I'm telling you some of my favorite stories from Complete Devastation MMA. It was an incredible time. It was a great promotion. Unfortunately, it ended without realizing its full potential. I firmly believe that. Before I tell my favorite stories from that era, though, I wanted to tell any fight promoter who's listening 5 very good reasons why they should be hauling ass over at Altoona, Pennsylvania. Number 1, distribution. So any business needs to be aware of, well, how are folks going to get a hold of my product? And I don't think people realize how centrally located Altoona really is. From Altoona, Pennsylvania, it's 2 hours to Pittsburgh, 45 minutes to State College, home of Penn State University, and maybe 3 hours to Philadelphia. In Altoona, Pennsylvania, there are folks getting channels from Johnstown, from Pittsburgh, maybe even from Philly, and vice versa. News from Altoona travels incredibly fast. So if you had a fight promotion and you are wondering how do I get people to my shows and how do I get the news out about my shows, well, Altoona's really already done the work for you. News travels incredibly fast to those corners of the state. Harrisburg's incredibly close, State College, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. It's very easy to get from other states, New York, Maryland, Ohio. It is that centrally located. So distribution to get news out about your fight promotion and to actually get tukuses into seats, very centrally located, and distribution is already considered. Local talent pool. So there are a lot of really good fighters in Altoona. Right now, Ethan the Wolverine Goss, who easily had one of the best fight series with Rich Canalina, a fight series that made everyone else look at Altoona, Pennsylvania. It was incredible. Ethan trains out of Altoona, Pennsylvania. Of course, Brett Showtime Schoenfeld's from Altoona, Pennsylvania. The whole Dignan Brumbaugh team. Fighters from the Northeast Pummeling Den out of Clearfield. Levi McCord. I'm not sure if he's still actively fighting, but, he's there. Fighters from the Pittsburgh area have been known to fight in Altoona, Pennsylvania. John Rearick. pretty much a Pittsburgh native, made his either his amateur debut or very early in his amateur career, fought in Altoona, Pennsylvania. There are coaches. There are matchmakers, Ryan Glenn and Rob Lynn, two matchmakers who put on absolutely incredible cards in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Guys who are, very good at security, fighters, coaches, gyms. People want to come to Altoona. And, certainly so should your promotion. The tradition, well, that's going to be pretty much explained whenever, that's going to be explained with the podcast today of the stories I'm going to tell. But there's so much great fight tradition in Altoona, Pennsylvania. There's also, the fans. The fans are absolutely incredible in Altoona. They really made that fight circuit what it was. And for those reasons, for those people, is part of the reason why I'm pushing so hard to get Altoona an MMA fighting circuit again. Of course, media, people who are willing to show up to your fights to tell other people why they should go to your fights, and trying to get as much attention for your fight promotion as possible. So there are some very good reasons why you should get your promotion in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The fighters are ready. The fans are ready. The business compliments are ready for you to bring your business to Altoona, Pennsylvania. So hopefully that encouraged you as well as I hope it had. But today on the Prizefight podcast, I'm telling a couple of my favorite stories from the CDMMA era, and hopefully, we all have a good chuckle. So I've got a couple that are ready, and I'm not sure which ones I'm going to tell yet, but I'm going to start with my favorite one. And it's about a kid known as Kawiki Gonzalez. I have no idea what that guy's real name is. I could not even tell you. So Drew and I are going to CDMMA either 9 or 10. Might have been 10. Anyway, we show up to the venue a couple hours early just because, we like to get set up. As fighters are coming in, we wanted to get their vitals, the record, make sure the records are clear. Just production-wise, when you're doing commentary, to make sure that if there are any last-minute changes, that we're aware of it. So we walk into the Jaffa Mosque. Yeah, it would have had to have been CDMMA 10 because it was the second time we've been to the Jaffa. So we walk into the Jaffa Mosque, and the people who were working with CDMMA, and anyone who's ever done work with Complete Devastation MMA has been fantastic, and they all have a place that's near and dear to my heart. There's two different eras of Complete Devastation MMA, one being the Go Time era, the one being the CDMMA LLC era. And so this was CDMMA LLC era. So, we walk in, the Henman brothers are there, Eric Hill's there, just everyone associated with that with the folks who ran with the Nova 6 Media, all very salt of the earth kind of people. I really enjoyed talking to them, and I do miss talking to them still. So we walk into the Jaffa Mosque, and we see someone working out in the cage, which, not unheard of. There are guys who are getting there early. They work out in the cage. They're trying to get a feel for what the cage is, especially if they're competing with different promotions. Each promotion could use a different cage and could have a direct impact on how you're going to perform that night. So we walk in, and he's doing push-ups and yoga, and he's not wearing a whole hell of a lot, but he's got fight gloves on, and who am I to argue? And I couldn't help but notice that everyone's just kind of staring at him. Maybe not the most welcoming thing you're going to do, but, the problem was people are trying to work around this guy, and he's just doing his thing, doing his yoga, and it got to the point where they needed to clean the cage for regulation purposes. They needed to get in there and cleanse it. So they're like, okay, buddy, you got to go. And he wasn't listening to him. And then someone spoke up like, hey, buddy, you got to go. So he gets up and wipes his forehead sweat on the cage. And they just got done cleaning it, and he's wiping his sweat on the cage. So, whatever. It's not my bag, but, I'm no one to judge. I'm no one to say that's weird. It was weird, but, So he's sitting cage side. He's sitting along the seats cage side. And I like to think of myself as someone who's very thorough, especially when I'm doing commentary. So I say to the guy, I was like, hi, my name's Albert, and I'm going to be doing commentary tonight. What's your name? And he says, oh, my name's Kawiki Gonzalez. Now, I wish I could tell you that he responded to me in a tone that was as pleasant as what I just tried to portray. It was intense. And he says, you're doing announcing. And I didn't want to split hairs. I'm like, well, I'm doing commentary. He's like, okay, you got a good voice for it. And he's like, you know what? no matter who's in the cage, you call my name and I'll come down to fight him. What? And it's like, oh, are you on the fight card tonight? He says, yeah, I'm on the fight card. And I confirmed his name. He said, yeah, I'm Kawiki Gonzalez. I'm like, okay. So, of course, red flag number one was, you call my name and I'll come down and fight anyone you want. So now, I'm going to check the corner assignments. Because I am incredibly thorough. Not to toot my own horn, but to do fight commentary, you need to be thorough. You need to know what's going on. So I have not heard the name Kawiki Gonzalez ever. And I mean, at this point, I would have looked at the fight card in the last 24 hours at least 24 times. Easily. To make sure my commentary notes are prepared, I would have looked at this fight card a lot. And I do not know the name Kawiki Gonzalez. So we go check the corner assignments. And there's no one by that name in the red corner or the blue corner. No one on the fight card by the name of Kawiki Gonzalez. So we go over to Eric. And Eric's head of security. And to describe Eric, Eric's a very, very nice dude. Very fun-loving. Always willing to, talk and BS. And I really do miss the guy. He's a lot of fun to talk to. But he's also very intimidating. If I were in a social situation and I had to pick a fight with someone, it would be anyone other than Eric. There's a reason why, he's in charge of knowing who is supposed to be in and who's supposed to be out. So we say, hey, Eric, that guy over there? I said, what do you know about him? He's like, we don't know anything about him. He just showed up and started working out. He said he's fighting tonight. I was like, oh. I was like, well, what was he doing today? He's like, well, he showed up and started getting naked in the cage, and then we kicked him out because we had to clean it. I was like, okay. Well, he's not on the fight card tonight. What? Yeah, no, he's not on the fight card tonight. I don't know who this guy is, but he's not supposed to be fighting. So Eric gets on the phone with Drew, the boss. And he's telling Drew what's going on, and Drew doesn't know the guy, and matchmakers don't know the guy, and we have no idea who the guy is. So Eric calls over to Kawiki and says, hey, you come here. And he's asking him questions, and we figure out that this guy's not supposed to be fighting, okay? Nobody knows who this guy is. So Eric finally says, well, how did you get here? And Kawiki says, with hard work and determination. And Eric says, how did you physically get here? And Kawiki says, well, I jogged. And Eric says, well, you can jog your ass on out of here. You're not supposed to be in the building. So the cops are eventually called because, there's a fight going on. The Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission has very strict regulations for fighter safety, so we don't want the rogue element coming in. So they call the police, and the police say, oh, we know who this kid is, and he's got some issues, and traditionally harmless, but, we understand you don't want him in the building. So he tries coming back again, saying he forgot his backpack somewhere in the Jaffa. And Eric was having none of this. So, someone caught him and said, hey, Eric, he's here. Eric runs him out of the building. So at this point, we're like, okay, we're done with Kawiki. That was fun. It was funny. But they couldn't stop him from buying a ticket. And I'll be damned if he wasn't one of the most persistent young men I've ever seen. So I have a good friend from State College who does jiu-jitsu. His name's Jonathan Masters. And Jonathan is waving to me, because hey, we know each other, and we did jiu-jitsu. And the funny thing about Jonathan is he's a strong guy, but I'm a lot bigger than he is for obvious reasons. So Jonathan had no problem putting me on my backside and getting submissions because he's that good at jiu-jitsu. So I say hi to him, and when you know who's behind Jonathan but Kawiki Gonzalez. At that point, there was nothing we can do, but man, that guy was persistent. And so if you watch episodes of Cage Nation TV around that time, we include the hashtag at the end of our episodes that say Free Gonzalez. Hashtag Free Gonzalez. And that was kind of our inside joke that Kawiki Gonzalez was someone, and probably one of the funniest things that I've ever had to deal with in a fight promotion. I mean, that could have turned real ugly. He could have been a mass murderer or someone. We don't know. But from how it all turned out, he was a young dude who was kind of misdirected but determined. And so now you guys know, if you ever see the hashtag Free Gonzalez, that's exactly what we're talking about. One of my second favorite stories out of Complete Devastation MMA was when Corey the Real Deal Hill fought Daryl Madison. That fight ended early, not early bad, but early in the round, because Corey Hill God rest his soul, secured a Darce choke, was able to put Daryl Madison out, and Altoona came unglued. Okay, like the whole Blair County Convention Center was falling apart at this point. This was CDMMA 5. The night had a bunch of early stoppages. Jason Royer got a really nasty cut. Brad Mountain, there was some controversy around his armbar that he lost to. But anyway, Altoona was just coming unglued. People in the fans, fans in the seats were starting to become a little rowdy. You couldn't hear anything over the loud boos. I mean, boo! It was loud. So, that's any time to be expected. I mean, Corey Hill was a guy who fought in the UFC for very good reason. I mean, Corey had some biological benefits to his person that he could take advantage of, and that was absolutely fantastic. What happened after the fight, though, is what always tickles me pink. There's a guy who worked with Go Time by the name of Bill Maloney, and Bill is easily one of my favorite people on planet Earth. Bill was a great guy. He still is. He is still a great guy. And actually, someday if I ever have children, there's a very good chance that Bill is going to be named as the Godfather. I absolutely love that guy. He is salt of the earth, one of the sweetest human beings on planet Earth, but low tolerance for BS. He has no time for drama, but again, a great guy. I'm very glad I got to meet him in my life. So Corey Hill's manager and Daryl Madison's manager, they start getting into it. Okay, the crowd's already restless. They're already up in arms. They're booing and they're just being, I don't want to say rowdy, but I mean, it was getting there. So Corey Hill's manager and Daryl Madison's manager, they're getting in each other's faces. I mean, they're getting into their face. Things are going to happen. Hands are going to get thrown. And whenever Bill Maloney has to step in between two human beings, that stuff's about to get rough. Bill used to work the old All or Nothing professional wrestling events. And Bill is a tough guy. Sweethearted, but I wouldn't cross him. So Bill has had to tell people at professional wrestling events, hey, you need to calm down or get out. So to see Bill approaching these two managers getting in each other's faces, I was honestly expecting them both to get tossed out by the scruff of their neck. It was just scary. Like, you could see it coming on. And I mean, Drew can corroborate that story, and even Mike Kessling. They can corroborate that story that Bill was about to grab someone by the back of their neck, and it was going to be funny. It was just two grown men were going to be tossed out on their backsides, and it was going to be funny. But lucky enough, cooler heads prevailed. But that whole main event evening, the whole CDMMA 5 evening was unique. It was something to be a part of. I mean, there was a couple kind of cross finishes that were no one's fault. Absolutely no one's fault. But I mean, they happen the way they happen. That's the nature of combat sports. It is a zero-sum game. Someone will lose, someone will win. Unless it's a draw. But I've never seen a draw in Pennsylvania, and if you have, I'd like to hear about it. So anyway, Bill Maloney almost had to crack skulls. Corey Hill, winner, but the crowd wasn't happy about it. And Corey Hill was actually going to come back to Altoona at some point. But unfortunately, Corey lost his battle with whatever ailment he was going through. And he's gone. He was a great guy to talk to. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to him, but Corey's gone, and he is thoroughly missed. And before that fight happened at the weigh-ins, Corey actually pinched my nipple. So that's always a fun story to tell. One of the last stories I'm going to tell today is about how a fight card falling apart should be managed. In my realm of covering mixed martial arts, I have seen a couple fight cards just absolutely implode upon themselves. I have seen fight cards boil down to 4 fights. I've seen them boil down to 3 fights, but lucky enough, there was enough boxing to save it. And whenever a fight card falls apart, it's human error, but it's all human error. Like, regardless of who error it was human. When a fight card starts to melt down, you can do one of a couple things. You can hold strong, hope for the best. Hopefully, you've had enough contingencies in place. The one fight card that I think was managed exceptionally well while the fight card was falling apart was Complete Devastation MMA 6 out of Clearfield, Pennsylvania. Normally, a fight card in Pennsylvania for a smaller promotion, it can be all amateur if they want, but they have to have at least 2 professional fights. And what happened with CDMMA is it ended up turning out the other way. I think there was like 7 fights on the card, and only one of them was amateur. And I've never seen it happen like that. what ended up happening would be, as these amateur fights are falling apart, then matchmakers and the promotion have to start finding substitute fights. And what they ended up doing was they ended up having to book more pro fights to substitute for the amateur fights that were lost. Now, the pro fights we got were absolutely incredible. That's where I met Billy Ward for the first time. He fought Ryan Glenn. First time I ever got to see Tyler Combs. He fought Andrew Osborne. First time I got to meet Brett Showtime Schoenfeld. Tenye Skinny Man Dixon. Like, that was the first time I got to meet him. That was a pivotal card. It was absolutely fantastic, but, you know, it was on its way to disaster. It was going to melt down, but, you know, Go Time and the matchmaker ended up saving it. And I think CDMMA 6 was a great card, and I really wish I had the video for it. But it was absolutely fantastic. You know, the fights we got were absolutely incredible. It wasn't like, you know, the 15 fight spectacle that you normally get, but the fights were quality. What really put the feather in my cap was I grew up in Clearfield County. So I walked into CDMMA 6 with some of my favorite people in the planet riding with me, and I had a really cool job that I was doing. I was very proud of it, and I was kind of hoping that I ran into everyone I went to high school with. You know, we all rented the same UFC videos from Videos Unlimited. We all saw the same fights, and I was kind of hoping that, you know, they were going to come see this live mixed martial arts action, and if they didn't, shame on you. But I was kind of hoping to run into him and say, "Oh, hey, you're here to watch the fights? Yeah, I'm doing commentary for the promotion." In hindsight, I'm glad it didn't turn out that way, because that would have fluffed my ego way too much. And I don't like having an ego, because who am I and what have I really done? Nothing. I'm lucky enough to get to exist in a fighter's universe. I'm lucky enough to get to cover fights. All I'm doing is reporting on what's being done. I'm not doing the hard work. I'm not making the magic. I'm not putting the work in for these, you know, Rocky Balboa fights or the promoter's opportunity to create those fights. I'm not doing that. I am just allowed to exist, and I get to report on it. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. So if I had ran into people I went to high school with, I would have had an undue sense of accomplishment, and I'm glad it didn't work out that way. All the praise for that evening needed to go to the fighters, needs to go to the promotion, because they made everything work, and it was absolutely fantastic. I'm going to close out the Prize Fight podcast this week with my favorite story from the Altoona fight scene. It was Complete Devastation MMA 7. Charlie the Madman Gathers was getting ready to fight Tyler the Daywalker Saltzman, and it was going to be a big event. Fantastic turnout. Altoona and State College really showed out for that fight. But someone close to the family for everybody, she got sick. Byron Broombaugh's wife was diagnosed with a cancer, and cancer is an incredibly ugly disease. I absolutely hate that word. That word ruins families. It destroys lives. It, you know, just the whole concept of it is just this thing that just eats away at you. So, you know, Byron is a fantastic guy himself. He has brought a lot to other people's lives. As a coach, you know, he focuses people's aggression. He channels their energy. My brother, who worked with Byron, always speaks very highly of him, worked underneath him when they were both working together. And so, you know, hearing that Byron's wife got sick, especially with that word, made everyone sick. It made everyone sad. And you know, it was an opportunity where the support was needed. And we got the call. Charlie the Madman Gathers got a hold of everyone in his realm of influence and said, "Hey, at the fight, we're turning out in pink. We are all wearing pink. We are showing support." You know, Chuck was inviting everyone to be a part of his family to show the support that this ugly disease was not going to ruin lives, that people would stand up to it. And it was awesome. So Drew and I, we go get our pink ties before the event. Drew actually, I think, still wears his whenever he does announcing every now and again. I haven't seen him do ring announcing for a fight in a while. But Mike Kessling, even, you know, who did the entrance and production, actually got Chuck a pink, like, I don't know how he arranged it, but it was blue for the blue corner, red for the red corner. So whenever Chuck came down to the cage to fight Tyler Saltzman, it wasn't red or blue, it was pink. So Charlie, being the selfless individual he is, Chuck has had a lot of great wars in Altoona. I mean, I dubbed him Altoona's favorite son at one point because the man draws such an incredible pop from the crowd. I mean, people lose their minds over seeing Chuck fight. So Chuck used that to gain support and gain interest. It was something I was very proud of being a part of. But Chuck said, "Hey, you know what? We're all wearing pink. We're showing support for this. We are going to kick ass." And Byron's wife, to this day, is still doing well. Val is doing as well as she can, and Byron is a great guy who helped channel aggression. So I mean, any opportunity we had to support him, especially for everything he's done in the community, people were very glad to do it, and I was very, very proud to wear that pink tie, and I still have it hanging up in my closet today. And that's my favorite story in the area because people get reputations very easy, and to have a reputation as a fighter, especially a cage fighter, is to say, hey, you're big, aggressive, and you don't care for human life. Well, that's not quite the opposite. Every fighter I've ever ran into has a deep concern for human life, a deep concern for fair competition. They enjoy what they do, but they also care about their brothers and their fellow men very much. They are very gentle people who care for other people and try to rise to the occasion every opportunity they have. And that was a great opportunity to where we were able to see the best of people come out, and that made me very proud of that fight circuit. That's my favorite fight story out of Altoona. So thank you guys for joining me for this week's Nostalgia Bomb. I really do miss everyone from Altoona. I miss the matchmakers. Ryan's a great guy. I miss the promoters and the fighters, and I miss getting to talk to those guys. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys who made that fight circuit work and made it click. I do believe that Altoona will have a great fight circuit again. It won't be the same as CDMMA, but that would be unfair to try to hold them to that standards. It's going to be new. It's going to be something different. It's going to be built on the sweat and the hard work of the people who are there. And if you are a fight promoter listening right now, and you can get to Altoona, Pennsylvania, get a hold of me or get a hold of someone in Altoona and say, hey, how can we make this work? Because there is so much potential that is still there. So much going for that little city that they're demanding mixed martial arts. They are demanding it. They're saying, where is it? We want it. The demand is there. Are you going to go take their money? The money's on the table. Fight promoters, the money's on the table. Are you going to walk up to that table and grab their money? Altoona, Pennsylvania really does deserve a great fight circuit, and I hope it's yours. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the Prize Fight Podcast. Until next time, fights, Cameron, action.
Thank you for tuning in to the Cage Nation Prize Fight Podcast. All rights reserved. 2016 to 2017 Planet Aries Sports. The Prize Fight Podcast is part of the Cage Nation Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.cagenationtv.com.